All right, you guys, we are in for a treat today. Our guest, Lillie Kane, is a popular nutrition YouTuber and certified health and nutrition life coach who specializes in optimizing micronutrient intake and boosting one's metabolism. She teaches reverse dieting and biohacking as a means to improve body composition, cognitive function, longevity, overall metabolic health. And if you have not yet followed her on Instagram, you got to get over there right now because she is one of the most entertaining and brilliant accounts that I have ever seen. So welcome to the show, Lillie.
Awesome. What an intro. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're pumped to have you. We're going to get started with some cool rapid fire true and false. So first true false question is, Lillie, you take health very seriously and you never have any fun doing what you're doing.
True. No, of course, false. We always are having fun.
All right, number 2, you've always had the perfect body and everyone wanted to be you.
False.
All right, number 3, you had a difficult upbringing, but it's helped make you who you are today.
True.
Number 4, you started a YouTube channel during COVID to bring more light to the dark world, and it went viral.
True.
I love that. Number 5, calories do not matter on a carnivore diet.
False.
Number 6, you should have probably taken this one. You know what? You read this one.
Believe period cramps are permanent and there is absolutely nothing you can do to alleviate hormonal symptoms.
False.
Your husband was social media accused of using HRTs, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
True.
And finally, you're known as Lillie Kane, but Kane is actually your middle name and your last name, well, that's a secret.
True.
I love it.
That's great.
Well, let's dive on into this. We're going to go back to the beginning. We would love for you just to walk us through a little bit of your story, your mission, and how this amazing YouTube channel came to be.
Awesome. Okay. So I grew up in San Diego, and unfortunately, my parents met out of their shared addiction for drugs and alcohol. So most of us kind of know where the story's headed. A relationship like that doesn't last too long. And so when I was really young, they ended up getting a divorce. I was probably 3 or 4 years old. I actually have quite a fuzzy memory when it comes to before 16 years old. Most people have like very vivid memories, and unfortunately, my most present memories are not great ones. So I actually just try to push down and not think about the past. And so my mom tried her best as a single parent because my mother ended up getting full custody over my sister and I. And she kind of made my dad out to be like the bad guy and kind of scared us into not wanting to see him. And so he would come and try to be there for us during the holidays or going to our not high school, or he would go to our elementary school and try to bring presents, and we would hide from him and go underneath the table and tell the teacher to call the cops on him. And so our mom made us really afraid of him. So because he was trying to see kids who would run away from him, and he'd also have to deal with my alcoholic mother, eventually he just started not coming around. And so I haven't really seen or heard anything from him since I was like 6 or 7. Then, like I said, my mom tried her best as a single parent, but it's hard when you have like an addiction to find your priorities, I suppose. And so my sister and I were really good kids. We were in church as deacons and greeters. I was in track and field, volleyball, theater, art, photography, student government, volunteer club. I was involved in so many activities as a means to keep me distracted and keep me in school longer so I wouldn't have to go home to see my mom passed out after she would start drinking at like 7 in the morning, driving my sister and I to school with her thermos instead of coffee filled with red wine. And you never knew what was going to come out of like her response and her energy. And so it was like walking on eggshells around our house growing up. And she would just always snap and yell at my sister and I for no reason, call the police on us for no reason, kicked us out, evicted my sister and I when I was 13. And then officially when I was 16, she said she never wanted to see or hear from us ever again. And she got her wish. We ended up moving out of the home, and I legally became an emancipated minor, went to juvenile court, fought for my freedom, and became emancipated, which was one of the best days of my life. I felt like the chains were finally broken. I was finally free, and I no longer had to be afraid that my mom was going to show up and go to my school and say that I was kidnapped or things like she had done in the past. So then I ended up going to college in Minnesota because of my story. I ended up winning so many different scholarships and being able to get accepted into a private school for free. So unfortunately, school was in Minnesota. So I did freeze my booty off. But I got to be a part of the track and field team, which was really healthy for me. I did struggle with insecurities as far as like wanting someone to love me just because of my past. I really wanted like a man to love me and have a boyfriend all the time. And I was so desperate that I think, well, you know, hindsight's 2020, learning about, yeah, you don't need to be so clingy and like need people's attention, need people's love. You can just like love yourself first. And then in life, if something attracts to you because you're a positive energy of love, then you're going to attract it into your life. And so in college, I really struggled with my looks and my confidence. And I did gain 15 pounds my freshman year, which I was actually pretty happy about because most of my life I had always been teased for being chicken legs, toothpick legs, flat chested, because we just didn't have enough money for me to overconsume food when I was a young person, since my mom had a hard time keeping a job. And so we were very low income. I grew up on lots of top ramen, macaroni and cheese. And then when I went to college, I got the access to the all-you-can-eat buffet. And I got to eat my heart's desires out. And but I was still in track and field. And so I was still able to like look okay, but on the inside, that's when I really was breaking even more so, because now I was having joint pain, yeast infections, UTIs, irregular menstrual cycles, tons of acne and irritability, mood swings, needing to take a nap in the middle of the day every single day, and then just more anxiety, more depressive thoughts. And so even though I looked healthy, I was really sick on the inside, and I would actually just get sick, having the stuffy nose, sore throat, runny nose, cough, and get sick multiple times a year. And so it wasn't until I graduated college and then moved to Maui, where then my body composition, because I was so done with track and field, I was like, my knees are in so much pain at this point that I'm not going to work out. I don't need to. I'm a lean person. I don't need to exercise. That's only for people who need to lose weight. My body composition then started changing from like muscular to overweight. And I was getting a donut every single day after work, because we in Maui, there's a Krispy Kreme donuts. That's where you'd find Lillie Kane over there. My husband was my boss at the time. And through being around him and being around him as a positive influence, that he would go to the gym, not because he was trying to lose weight or trying to get girls. He was going because purely he wants to live his longest, healthiest, best quality life. And so by being around him, I was inspired to like move my body, because that's a good, healthy thing and way of honoring our bodies and loving ourselves. It's not a chore. It's not a hassle. It's not a have to do on the to-do list. It's something I get to do. And it's a form of loving myself. It helps my brain, my heart, my digestion, my bones, my muscles, my mood, my sleep. Moving our bodies is so critical for so many parts of our body and well-being that how could I not? It's just a form of loving myself. And so also by being around him, I got to see that he didn't need cookie dough to be happy. He didn't need donuts to be able to say, okay, it was a great day. He didn't look forward to having any sorts of like sweet treats. It was just, this is what I eat. I love the foods that I'm eating. There's nothing wrong with eating healthy. And he just being around such a positive influence, it made me reflect on what I was doing and why I was eating what I was eating, to the point where I just slowly started making changes with my nutrition plan and seeing the benefits really quickly, as far as like what happens once you stop having as many processed junk foods. And a really long story short, I ended up starting a YouTube channel just purely during COVID times, wanting to bring more joy to the world. I didn't know really where I wanted to take the YouTube channel. I just wanted to make people smile and laugh and feel, yeah, like more light, especially during the dark times. And then eventually the channel just started picking up and growing. And I realized really quickly how much our nutrition and our health play a role into our happiness. So even though I could try to like get people to be happy in a certain way, I can make a bigger impact and really change people's lives if I can help them move the needle with their health. And as they become more healthy, then they'll inevitably have more abundance and feel more whole and complete. When they have their health back, they'll be able to have more joy.
Wow. I mean, I feel like I just spent the last like 15 years of life with you walking through that story. That was so beautifully told and put together. And I'll be honest, like when I saw your channel, one of the first things I said to him, I'm like, she's been through tough stuff. And he knew your background, but he kind of looked at me like, why do you think that? And I'm like, happy people are not just happy to be happy. Like happy people usually have to walk through really, really dark, deep, long, crappy valleys in order to realize that happiness is a choice. And everything in life is a choice. And so I thank you so much for sharing that, and honor you even more hearing all the details of your story. Like, I think you're incredible.
Well, thank you. And, you know, people have asked me so many times, like, were you always this happy, or did something change? And even as a kid, I really did try to be like the class clown. Like you ask anybody back in the days, they would have been like, they had no idea that anything was going on in my home life. So I guess I really did try to choose joy even back then. And I look back on old videos of myself talking, because I have a video of myself the day before I became emancipated, And I don't know why I recorded it. This wasn't even like YouTube times, but I said like, I don't know who this video is for or why I'm saying this, but tomorrow's my emancipation, and I just hope, you pray for me or keep me in your mind, and that tomorrow's going to be, everything's going to be okay. And it just makes me really happy to like look back on myself and be like, wow, like I was so strong back then. I don't know like how that happened. Like I'm proud of that person.
I mean, and it's great having that as like a frame of reference, right? Because we all come across really hard things as we get older. The hard things change, right? They just take on different wrapping paper.
Yeah.
But they're still hard. And then you can always look back and say, well, you know what though? I walked through this.
Yeah.
I walked through this and look at where I am now. And it's really powerful to have that. And I'm sure that a lot of people can hear your story and they would say like, I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that, but there's also that part of you that's like, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
that's why I am the way I am. And
Mhm.
Corey Beth and I have had this conversation many times before ourselves, because it's very interesting. I just see you two, like there's lots of parallels in your life, in the sense of like having to deal with some real tragedy, and Corey Beth's tragedy that she dealt with, where friends of hers dying at a really young age. And it is interesting because people are like, oh, were you always this happy? And you were in a pretty dark place also. And
Yeah.
I almost couldn't imagine you that way.
Yeah. But you know what it is? It's that darkness where we realize that like in darkness, our light shines the brightest. And I feel like that hearing your story, like you were not just dealing with family situations, you were dealing with health issues. Then on top of that, you have people critiquing your body, which is the last thing a young girl or lady wants to hear. Like getting it from all ends. It's like my parents would always say that coal, dark, like black coal under tremendous pressure forms a diamond, and it's people like you, they're diamonds in the world. And I think that that's empowering to hold on to. And it's not for us. It's not like I'm so proud of myself, but it's like, hey, like if I could walk through this, like, come on, girl, like, let's go, like, let's get it together. You can walk through this too.
Yeah. I'm so glad for everything that happened in my past, and it made me who I am today. And it made me so strong that like the hard things today, I don't have hard things in my life. Like everything's so easy. And then when you have that, then it makes your energy that you're putting out attracts it to make things even easier and even more abundant. So there's no hurdle I can't overcome at this point.
I love it.
Well, part of that story that I want to just dovetail into is one that Corey Beth can also resonate with, which is, a knight in shining armor walking into her life and helping her to change all of her nutritional and exercise habits. Like bring us back to that story though.
When you met Bryce.
When you met Bryce and he's doing all this stuff, like what was your thought process? Like, is this guy crazy? Is this really worth it?
Yeah, so at the time, I legitimately thought I was eating healthy, especially in comparison to the other people in my coworkers. I always had the spinach and the broccoli and the carrot sticks and then the donut, because it cancels each other out, right? Like if you eat healthy, then you can eat something unhealthy because it just balances each other. So when I was going, basically how it worked is I was at a certain enterprise location and then I got transferred down to his location. So before I got transferred down, they're like, oh, that Bryce guy, like you have to be there on time. And I was like, what's wrong with that? Because in Hawaii, things are a little bit laid back. So it's like people are a little bit lazier. They're not like trying to go places. And me, I was like, I want to grow in my career. And like, so anyway, when they're like, he's going to make sure you're punctual and he eats like, you think you eat healthy. This guy eats really healthy. And I was like, okay, sure. I show up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I remember I called my family and I was like, I love this new boss. He's so organized. He's on time. He communicates great. Like I love this dude already. And then when I found out that he was like actually super, super healthy, I was like, wait, so no chips ever? No alcohol ever? No processed junk food, dessert ever? And it was like BYOC instead of BYOB. It was bring your own candy. And so I would bring my cookie dough to his place and leave it in his freezer because I just knew you go over to Bryce's house, there's none of that stuff there. And yeah, it's just like being around him, I was like, how come you don't want this stuff? He's like, it's so different for that kind of mindset because you think like you're missing out on life. I used to make these deep fried Oreos where I'd take Oreos, put them in like cake batter and then deep fry them in canola oil and then cover them in frosting and sprinkles. And it was the best tasting thing in the world. And I remember I like sat on his lap, like trying to force it in his mouth. I'm like, trust me, you're missing out on life. You need to have this. And at the time, he already knew about canola oil and frying things, and was very kind. No, thank you. I'm okay. No, thank you. And it was like bothering me. Why can't you just, why don't you need this? Why can't you try this? I'm telling you, this is really, really great. And he willingly ate a nibble. And yeah, I say sorry to him after every time I bring this up. Hey, sorry about that again. So I think, for most people who might be listening to this, it's hard because so many of our friends and our family and the people in our world and at our work are all eating these things that you feel like the loser, the left out person, the black sheep for not participating. And I totally get it. It is so hard. I'm so lucky that I had someone there who was the buddy that I needed. Sometimes we need people there to help with our support, especially in the beginning. So I say, if you don't have someone in your personal life, there's so many YouTube videos and people who will be your friends and who you can we have to really make it our part-time job to not have processed junk food in our space, because all day long we're being bombarded with eat processed junk food. It is the first thing you see when you go to the grocery store. It is at your work in the candy dish. It is on social media. It is on TV commercials. It is in the hospital vending machines. So it is everywhere that you have to kind of put in your face, in your space, and in your environment the opposite stuff, because all day long you're going to be distracted and being pulled to do that kind of activity. And so that's why for me, it's really nice to have that person there who was like, I'm doing this. I'll go and drive you to go and get a donut, Lily, but I'm just going to watch you eat it. And then it makes you self-reflect and be like, why do I need to have a donut to be, he's completely happy without it. So let's dig more into this and see what's going on.
Oh, I mean, I love the first time I ever walked into his training studio. He was not my trainer at first, by the way. He was eating this protein pudding out of this NutriBullet container. And I'm like, what the heck is this guy? How is that even good? And it was probably 6 months later, I was eating the same thing. I'm like, this is delicious. So,
well, and also it was funny too, with the first time you ever walked into my apartment.
yes,
and you open up my refrigerator.
I was like, chicken, and oh, mustard. Awesome.
Yeah, Bryce loves mustard. He always had mustard. And I was like, where's the mayonnaise? I was the mayonnaise girl. And he always had mustard on the table. Yeah.
And it's funny though. I mean, I want to get also into your journey around carnivore and the way that you eat today. I always find it fascinating, right? Because many of us who arrive here, we come from different paths. And I always say that there's levels to the game, right? We're playing one level one day, and then next day we up to the next level. And I just think back on all the different ways or paths that we could have gone down with our nutrition. I mean, I think we pretty much have tried it all.
Yeah.
And then we've finally arrived here. And I can't say though that we've arrived at what we're going to do forever. It's what we're doing now and what works now.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit more background though of how you guys, moved from just eating healthy to now eating carnivore.
Yeah. So essentially before I knew Bryce, he had even backup. When he was in elementary school, he was overweight and he would get bullied and teased for being fat. And so he would go to his dad crying, oh my gosh, no one wants to be my friend and I'm being bullied. And so his dad, being a chiropractor and having more of a nutrition background, was like, okay, if you want to lose weight, this is what you got to do. And Bryce lost 50 pounds in 1 year from 5th to 6th grade. And then after that, it was like his dad said, okay, cool, now let's take you to the next level. I don't want my son being the pipsqueak. I want him to have some muscle mass too. So he taught him how to lift in the gym and what to eat to really optimize his body composition. And so Bryce, over the years, being a teenager and everything, was super healthy. And even then in his early 20s was the epitome poster boy, I guess, of health, but then wanted to take his health to the next level and become even healthier. And so what do? Plant-based diet. So he heard about a fruitarian all fruit diet. Now, we didn't say I'm going to do this forever, but hey, they're saying that this is the healthiest way to eat. So I'm going to try this all fruit fruitarian diet. And so initially it went really well for him and he enjoyed it, but then he ended up losing a ton of muscle mass, becoming again the lean, tiny kid. And as a gentleman, I'm sure you can relate that people look at you differently depending on how you look. Yes, if you're overweight, they're going to look at you at a certain weight. If you're too skinny, but especially for a man, you want to have more muscle mass and more size for people to look up to you and have some respect. And so he ended up doing an all fruit diet, losing that respect right there from his looks. But then on top of it, he ended up getting like gout-like symptoms, and his foot started like having really bad pain. So he thought, okay, well, maybe the answer is not like all fruit diet, but maybe I should be incorporating some vegetables, and I'll be doing a vegan diet. So then he transitioned into vegan, and it was like, my health is still getting worse. I'm having bloating and gas and irritable bowel syndrome and SIBO and leaky gut and all sorts of things going on with my gut. Plus people are still judging me for my appearance. And so I think I'm going to try doing vegetarian. Okay, that's not really working. So, okay, I think I'm going to try. And he ended up falling onto doing more of a ketogenic approach, because he at that time had been listening to people like Robert Sykes, Thomas DeLauer, Goody Beats, Logan Delgado, and Blood Sugar King, Jason Whitrock. And these gentlemen being people who still have muscle mass and size, yet they're doing a high fat diet, not a high carb diet, which is like very different than he's used to in the bodybuilding space. So he tried a ketogenic diet, and that really helped and healed his gut. So then when he met me, I was eating my Lillie Kane processed junk food diet, the pizza, Oreos, donuts, alcohol diet. And initially, yes, he kind of told me like, I don't eat this, that, and the other. But also when you first start dating someone, you don't want to be the weirdo. You don't want to say, oh, I don't have chips, I don't have pizza, I don't have brownies. And so sometimes he would give in and have these things with me. So meanwhile, while I was becoming slowly healthier being around him, his health was slowly becoming very noticeably not good. And he ended up, especially during COVID times, I think like the combination of like stress also on top of like not eating great things, his skin ended up breaking out into like more like cow-like pattern spots where it was like red, raised, and itchy. And he ended up having like really, really bad gut issues and bowel movements. And he was like, Lillie, I can't keep eating like this. Like I have to go back to what I know has helped me heal my gut in the past, which was a ketogenic diet. And so he slowly started taking no more, I'm not going to have any more bread. I'm not going to have any more pasta. I'm not going to have any more rice, and slowly was moving into more of a high fat approach. And so I thought at the time, okay, we're just not going to have bread this week. We're just not going to have pasta this month. And of course he said, you don't have to do what I'm doing, Lillie, keep doing whatever you want to do. But just because we cook together, grocery shop together, we clean together, and clearly you're telling me you're going to do something for your health and something healthier, I want to do that too. And so slowly he was removing more of the grains, and then eventually it got to the point where he was like, I really don't think the broccoli is agreeing with me. I don't know if the asparagus is working well. And so he just started removing some of the vegetables, and then he just kept feeling even better. And then he was at one point just doing like a carnivore diet. I didn't even know it at the time. I was like, I just thought he was eating meat and the veggies weren't agreeing with him. And I didn't think anything of it. And I was just slowly doing that as well. And then eventually, like long term, his plan, because of in the past, first way back when doing fruitarian, knowing that you might think this is the way, I have the answer, this is the best way to eat. And then you end up saying, oh, wow, life humbles. It's not always that way. And then it's the vegan diet now. Nope, it's not that way. No, it's the vegetarian diet. Nope, it's not that way. And so even on my first ever, like what I eat in a day YouTube video, he told me you have to say, things can always change, and this is what I'm doing right now, and do more research on your own. And because he always instilled in me that like you might always find like the answer, the way, and then life humbles and things change. And so at this point we both eat more of like a animal-based diet, I suppose. He definitely has more fruit than I do, just because he feels better doing it, especially with him being more active. Like we both go to the gym, but the intensity that he brings versus me, the carbohydrates definitely help him have like a better pump, a better sleep. So we eat animal-based, I suppose, but yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
Amazing. I love how you say that too. Life humbles. I mean, former teacher, used to sit across from parents. And at that point I did not have kids. And I was like, oh, this is the way it's got to be, And like literally now as a mom of a 9 and a 6-year-old, I wish I could go back and apologize to all of them. So I love that disclaimer on your videos. Like, this is what I'm doing right now. Like, this is what works for me right now. I think that's really valuable.
Well, and I think too, what we could take from that is, your body will tell you what it needs when it needs it.
Yeah.
And
So
the
good.
fact that he was just so cognizant of what was going on with his body and made the necessary changes. But then it is being humble enough to say that, okay, this is working really well right now, but I may need to adjust this later on. And I think that's where people just in general around, whether we're talking about nutrition, whether we're talking about exercise, I mean, we all fall short.
Religion,
Yeah,
everything.
we all get caught up in this is the only way. And then we become zealots about it. for that period of time. And then maybe a few years later, we're like, oh, I was probably
Little off.
been, been that intense about it. But also too, though, what's interesting is because we had touched earlier on the question around hormones. So what were some of the changes that you started experiencing as you began to adopt more of what Bryce was doing?
Yeah, I mean, immediately my body composition came more into a less inflamed state. I stopped being as hungry all the time and having like a sugar crash, but then also my menstrual cycle regulated for the first time in my whole life. I was always irregular since the very beginning of time. I also had really bad cramping, which is like TMI for the men, but ladies, you understand what I'm saying as far as like so severe that I'm like taking Advil and Midol and using a heating pad and having my legs up in the air. And I used to be in like high school, I couldn't even put my head up. I had to put my head on the desk and then ask the teacher to go lay outside in the concrete because I wanted the cold. And then the nurse comes to me and uses the wheelchair to pull me out of school. And my mom has to come and pick me up early because I can't eat. The pain was so bad. And then to now have no cramping whatsoever, I don't even know if it's going to happen. I'm all like, oh, it happened. And then like no breast tenderness, no PMS symptoms, mood swings, all the crying. Oh, I need chocolate. So it's really nice to like not have to have these like pain when you don't need pain, not even just from menstrual cycle as a woman, but even like my joint pain. I had such bad knee pain for so long. I was in crutches. I had to ask for time off of work because I couldn't even walk, and having like really bad acne. And so, yeah, your hormones, your body knows what to do. It's not a broken thing. It's not like even something as small as like having body odor and BO or having eye crust in the morning when you wake up. Like, our bodies should not be excreting nasty odors and pus and things coming out of it, because if we're excreting nastiness, we must be putting something in that must not be as optimal.
It's so gold.
If we can just stay on that one for a moment, though, how long did it take for you to notice it, though? Because this is part of the issue, right? We tell people, hey, you should try this particular intervention, this nutritional intervention. People start doing it, and maybe the response initially isn't so great, especially when we get people to move from like a standard American diet or just a high carb diet down to lower carb, eating more meat. And now all of a sudden, like bowel movements are all over the place. Like this doesn't feel right. And it's very easy to mistake your body trying to make these adaptations for there is something wrong. So, how long did it take you, or maybe even just the clients that you work with, how long does it often take to notice that, okay, now my body's moving in the right direction?
That's a great question. And it's going to be a very not direct answer, because I moved into things very gradually, moved into things like a turtle. Some people, they have that personality type where it's all or nothing, rip it off like a Band-Aid. I'm eating pizza one day and the next day I'm eating really healthy. For me, I had to go from like, to the thought of not eating ice cream was so hard for me that I was like, okay, I'm just going to, instead of having regular ice cream, I'm going to have sugar-free ice cream. And I got really good at having like keto ice cream. And then it got to the point where, okay, I'm just going to have a bite one time, I'm just gonna have one bite. Now I'm just gonna have one bite every other day. Now I'm gonna have one bite one time a week. Now just one time a month, and like slowly weaned off of it. So my like transition, people say like, when did you start eating this way? I'm like, it took me like, I gradually moved into it and I didn't have like a set date. And then on top of that, I did it wrong, I guess we can say. In the beginning, when I first started eating a ketogenic or carnivore-ish diet or animal-based diet, I was under eating. So I did not have my menstrual cycle regulate. I did not have lots of energy. I was losing my hair. I was waking up cold all the time, trying to put my hands over the eggs while they were cooking because I was so cold. So it actually wasn't until I posted my first like what I eat in a day video where I had, just like everybody else, heard online, eat until you're comfortably full, listen to your body. And so that's what I was doing. I wasn't trying to be in a calorie deficit. I wasn't trying to restrict food. I was just legitimately full off a small amount of food. That it wasn't until I posted my first video where somebody commented, no wonder why this girl's so lean. She's starving herself. She's only eating 1,200 calories. And I was like, what? I had never tracked. I had never thought about tracking. That it was at that moment where I said, okay, well, I'm legitimately stuffed and full off this small amount of food. So I'm going to, instead of just overnight doubling my calories, which one, I'm going to be too full if I do that and therefore not sleep good at night and my stomach's going to hurt. But then two, I might gain weight when you drastically increase your food intake. So I said, okay, I'm going to take what I'm currently eating. I know what I normally eat in a day, and I'm just going to add one more egg. And so I can tolerate an extra egg. So I got used to having an egg. And then after a couple of weeks or so, I said, okay, I'm going to have one more egg or a quarter pound of burger patty or something, or I'm just going to add little bits of food. And so I didn't have to like track my food to know I'm slowly increasing, where probably over the course of 6 to 7 months, I went from 1,200-ish calories to 2,500, nearly doubling, over doubling my calories, didn't gain any weight along the way. In fact, just had more energy, slept better, was able to build more muscle as I had the energy to push it more in the gym. No longer was waking up cold, and long-winded answer, finally regulated my menstrual cycle. So while yes, it is partially you want to be eating the right kinds of foods, we also want to be eating enough of the right kinds of foods, because what I can say, an egg is a nutrient dense food. Eating one egg is not going to give you all that you need. So yes, it did take me a lot longer because I, one, transitioned slowly, and then two, transitioned into something where I was just so low calorie that I needed to also work on boosting my metabolism and increasing my food intake.
I think that that's such a great answer, and one that people need to hear, you know?
I hope people actually go back and listen to that part again, because I think the most valuable piece of advice that you gave actually was about how you just added one egg, right? Like seriously, I mean, like when you really break it down, because we have these conversations and we work with so many women too, that probably the number one issue for most women when they're trying to make the nutritional change is getting enough protein.
Yeah.
And that always seems to be the struggle. It's like, but 100 grams of protein is still only 400 calories out of your day. Like it's not a lot, but maybe it's this mental block about eating protein or eating that much. And very similar to you, it's providing that advice that like, hey, just have one more egg. If you're doing 2 eggs in the morning, like you think you could do 4? I mean, it's not that filling.
Yeah.
And getting people to just gradually take those baby steps, because, I'm probably like Bryce, where he probably too can just jump right in, right? Like you could go from, 0 to 100 and be like, I'm going to start doing this tomorrow. And you do it. And then I know with Corey Beth, it was a long transition to become more carnivore, meat-based.
Well, let's be honest. I made fun of him for 6 months. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, are you going to have another steak? Like, oh, you're going to eat more meat, and he's like, we were friends on vacation, and I was like, oh, Mike's eating steak again. And funny enough, 3 months later, there I was with him. But
funny enough, all of those people are now doing it also.
It's actually
so
very
that's
true.
actually
But what you said though about the menstrual cycle, like I'm kind of racking my brain too. I want to hang out here for just a moment. And that is, were you put on birth control as like a 14, 15, 16-year-old young lady, or no?
I've been pretty anti-meds, even like ancillary inputs since I was a kid. So no one even taught me that. Even when I was sick, like I'd get stuff, sickness. My mom would be like, here, do you want to put like nasal up, like snort it up your nose, or get the spray back in your throat, or take medications? I'm like, no, because I just intuitively had this thing where, like, sure, initially when I'm a kid, I started taking medications, but then I kept finding out, I was like, no, I think it ends up like making me sick longer. Like, I feel like instead of me being able to just like have my body recover faster, these medications are like pushing and like changing something in my body that I kind of just intuitively was like, no, I think I'm just going to tough it out and like do this sickness. And then same thing with birth control. Like, yes, people were on that and whatnot, but I was like, no, that just doesn't seem like it makes much sense that I would need to have that. But now, hindsight, I'm like, oh, yeah, definitely don't want to be doing that right now.
Yeah. That is so into me, and like, wow, you were really smart. I remember I was given the birth control at 16, and I like walked out of the office, like it was like a rite of passage, I'm like, yay, like I get my thing. And it was so crazy because my periods were all over the place. And also too, I had ovarian cysts that were so painful. Like I remember being in the store, doubled over in pain, like whether they were bursting or what was happening, I was in so much pain. And I haven't really thought much about my cycle because through bodybuilding, I lost my period for a little bit of time when I was super low fat, did vegetarian for 2 years, so like walked through all the different things. But now, as again, approaching my 40s, 2 young kids, my period has never been more regular. Like I have a tracker, he laughs, it's at the back of like my work journal, but it's to the hour, like every 26 or 27 days is my cycle. And it alternates. It's like 26, 26, 27, 26, 26, 27. I'm like, oh my gosh, but I'm not taking anything. No birth control, no outside anything. And it was right as I met you. I'm like, I don't want to be on this stuff anymore. Like I just don't think it's great. It messes with us. It changes how we even would pick a mate, which I think like there's some crazy science there. But that's really intuitive of you to be so young and like, I don't want to put that stuff in my body. I think that's That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know what she was up to back then, but she knew something.
But fried Oreos, you know, like we all had some type of.
Oh yeah, well, there was, that doesn't count, right?
No, no. I remember being in New Jersey, seeing those. I'm like, oh, wow, like that is amazing.
Yeah, and that was never appetizing to me
Isn't that funny?
at all.
Yeah.
So since you do a lot of videos on like what I eat in a day, like what have you eaten recently?
Generally.
Okay, I'll tell you what I ate today. For breakfast, I had 2 scrambled eggs cooked in a little bit of bacon grease. We usually don't actually put that much grease in it. It just is very little. And then I had 2 cups of raw milk and a apple that I peeled the skins. And then for lunch, we had chicken drumsticks with olive oil, real olive oil. I sometimes don't even like to talk about the olive oil because often people think, oh, okay, I'm just going to go to the grocery store and buy olive oil. When in fact, there's statistics out there that over 82% of olive oils in the grocery stores, US grocery stores, are maybe rancid or even have canola oil in them. So olive oil is like kind of it's similar to wine and beer, how people might be like wine connoisseurs and know like the right specs or what, I don't know too much about alcohol, but with olive oil, there's these different like check marks you want to hit. Don't ask me them. And then it will tell you if it's a real true olive oil, where it's sourced from, the polyphenol count, things like that. And so anyway, yes, I had olive oil instead of like butter. And that's what I had for lunch today. And for dinner, I'll probably have a bowl of ground beef. Oh, and then for dessert, I'll have yogurt and some dark cherries and blueberries mixed in.
That's awesome.
That is so
And
good.
it's cool too, though, because again, I know that you've done so much in the, you know, the carnivore community, right? And have interviewed lots of carnivores,
Recipes.
and you've gone that route, but then to kind of come out of it and recognize like, okay, I'm actually okay with these other foods. And I think that also, I mean, for me, probably more so in the past 6 months, where I've started to transition a little bit and adding a little bit of honey, you know, in the evening, feeling like, again, for me, those carbohydrates actually do help to some degree with my workouts, and even doing the, you know, the weekly bowl of rice with, if we're doing shrimp or something like that. And it's like, you can handle it. If your body can handle it, then you're okay. But one other thing I wanted to talk about, because it's not something that many people, well, they don't put it on their bio, that they help people with reverse dieting. And, you know, I said to her, I was like, that's so interesting, because we worked so much in the natural bodybuilding scene for a very long time. And reverse dieting was something that, you know, I spoke about with every competitor I ever worked with. It was, hey, we're going to get you into this condition, and then we're going to reverse diet out of it so that you are, you know, we treat your metabolism and your hormones the way they need to be treated, because we know what a stressor getting into that degree of condition is. And yeah, well, I just found it interesting that you actually have it on your bio, because nobody ever talks about reverse dieting. And was that a lot because of the condition you were in before you started getting in shape, meaning being, quote, you know, underweight, if you will, being skinny, and then putting muscle on? Or did this evolve more from you going, you know, getting fit and then getting kind of unfit and then trying to get fit again?
Great question. So the reason I put it in the bio thing is I think because similar to what you're saying, as far as like, I associate you with carnivore recipes. And while even when I have been making recipes in the past with carnivore, like I had always been like flexible carnivore, I suppose, in the sense that like I've had fruit in my diet for years on YouTube, and people just only see the things that they want to see. And yes, while I make carnivore recipes, because I had like one piece of fruit, like, you know, big whoop-de-whoop, like I'm not going to like make a recipe with like a piece of fruit cut up into the meat or something. But I find like the carnivore word is a good, I think a lot of people are protein deficient. I'd say like crazy statistics of like people in the US get like 35 to 40 grams of protein a day. And so I think the carnivore revolution, it's doing a really great job of like showing people like, don't be afraid of meat, have protein, have healthy fats, get nutrient dense foods, iron, copper, selenium, vitamin D, all these things that you guys are, you know, most people are very deficient in. You can get a lot of this from animal foods. And so I think the push towards like eat meat is like fabulous. And then the part of like, and nothing else, that's where I kind of differ. But I had found that so many people were just associating me with like meat instead of like health. And people can be eating a carnivore diet and be doing like just eating hot dogs and not be getting all the vitamins and minerals and nutrients they need. Or they could be eating a well-rounded carnivore diet, having egg, liver, sardine, but having one of each thing, 1 ounce of liver, 1 egg, and 1 sardine, and being in such a low calorie state that who cares if you're eating a carnivore diet, you're nutrient deficient. So through doing so many calls with clients, finding that so many of them were just eating carnivore, but not knowing like the why. Why are you doing it? For protein, for nutrient density. And so when they're trying to eat carnivore, they're so low calorie just because for a lot of us, maybe certain ladies, they think they shouldn't have that much protein, or they've done so much dieting that they think they have to be in a low calorie state. But I found a lot of people actually just genuinely aren't hungry enough to eat more food, that they are so low calorie that I have to slowly increase and reverse diet out of that. And so I just kept making more videos on it. And then I started realizing, yeah, I guess I'm teaching more reverse dieting in most of my videos rather than teaching like carnivore. I mean, yes, eat meat, but eat enough, eat appropriately. And so that's kind of how it led down into that rabbit hole of like reverse dieting, as so many people I was seeing one-on-one just like weren't eating enough.
Where carbs come into play for you also, because I know that, again, that was another part of the reason why I started adding honey back in, is I noticed after a period of time not feeling very hungry and actually starting to trend towards losing muscle, even though nothing with respect to training changed. And I know I'm getting enough protein each day, but concerned that maybe I'm under eating. So, I mean, the two resolutions I came up with was, first, let me get rid of time restricted eating. And I'm just going to eat whenever I feel like I need to eat, regardless of what time it is. And then number two, add some carbohydrates back in, potentially to stimulate appetite. So is that part of the reason also, since you seem all about recomping and body composition versus just straight fat loss? Is that another reason why you guys implement carbohydrates?
Yes. And, you know, again, this is so a challenging conversation because I do think about who is my majority and who's my audience. And so that's why sometimes I don't show all of what I'm doing necessarily, because I found it's not as helpful, as most people aren't exercising, one, and they aren't at their body weight and they're not healthy. Most people are overweight. Most people have diabetes. Most people should not be having loads and loads of carbohydrates. Not that I have loads, but most people, not most, but a lot of people didn't get fat because they know how to moderate. A lot of people have binge eating disorder. A lot of people can't have a little bit. And so even still, like, a lot of carnivore content comes out of me because I just, even with your question, I'm like, yeah, but most people shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Like, I have, yes, carbohydrates because it makes me hungrier. I want to be hungrier because I'm so low calorie. But most people are overeating. So, I mean, not if they're doing carnivore usually, but a lot of people, if they know that, what I'm trying to say is I have carbohydrates, yes, to stimulate my appetite and make me hungrier so I don't undereat and run into low thyroid and hormonal imbalances and the things that happen when you eat so low calorie, loss of hair, testosterone, bad sleep, low energy. And so I want to make sure I'm eating enough and keeping my metabolism high. So yes, I strategically incorporate carbohydrates to make me hungrier. But if you already are listening and you know, oh, she's saying carbohydrates make me hungrier, and not that I think that they actually make me hungrier, in the fact that I just don't think they fill me up. Like, if you have protein, that's going to keep you full, that's going to satiate you, where you're just not going to want to eat. Whereas when I have carbohydrates, I drink my glass of milk in the morning and it goes down so easy. I don't even feel like I drank or ate anything, where then I'm easily able to sit down and eat my lunch. And so if you are listening and you're like, okay, therefore, maybe I shouldn't be incorporating lots of carbohydrates or some carbohydrates because it's going to make me hungrier. Therefore, I want to focus more on those healthy proteins and fats, as it's going to keep me full longer, especially people who are trying to lose weight. Well, yes, the quality of the calories matters more. So if we have 2,500 calories of pizzas and donuts or 2,500 calories of steak and eggs, if you just make that swap for quality calories, you're going to notice a change in your body composition, because with the steak and eggs, we have more protein in that. Protein has what's called a thermic effect of food, where it takes our bodies more energy, uses more calories to break down that protein and digest and absorb that. There's also nutrients and vitamins and minerals in the steak and eggs. With that egg, we're going to get choline. That's going to be great for our hair. We're going to have that zinc and iron that are so important for our nerves and our energy production. We're going to get that calcium that's going to help with our teeth and bones. And so there's all these different micronutrients that our body sucks up and uses with these steak and eggs, in comparison to that donuts and pizza, that when we just make that swap. It's the same calorie number. The calories didn't change. And yet our body composition is going to change and adjust accordingly when our body is getting what it needs to suck up and use all those nutrients for different parts of our body. But sometimes that's not enough for certain people. Sometimes they are still looking to lose a little bit more weight and they've been eating whole foods, and they still need to maybe then lower their calories a little bit temporarily, not long term, and then see the final touches of weight loss. And so if you know that, if you know I shouldn't be like over consuming food to try to lose weight, then therefore you might not want to have carbohydrates that make you not as full. We want you to be nice and satiated and full in a little bit of a deficit to keep you in a happy state where you're not going to be like, I'm so hungry in this calorie deficit that I'm going to overeat and therefore not lose weight.
It makes a ton of sense. And I really appreciate you again opening up about what you do and your honesty that not everybody should do what you do. And that goes back to what we were saying before, is that like there are levels to this game, and depending upon where you are in the game and how your body has evolved, so to speak, around the way that you've been eating and exercising your activity, that there is no blanket answer. And there is that person right now who's listening to this or watching this, who they're like, yeah, I can't have a carbohydrate. You're right. You can't.
Yeah.
But that's not to say 6 years from now, after you've been eating this way for a while, and then you've made all these other lifestyle changes, that adding some fruit back into your nutrition, maybe in small trace amounts, may not benefit you to some degree. And so I think that, people just need to understand that it's not one size fits all. And that you can't always look at the person who's in shape and say, hey, what are they doing? I'm just going to do exactly what they're doing. It's like, but what if they had not done that, most of that, for the last, 70% of their fitness life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're only seeing this last 30% now and trying to copy that, but that's not right. So I mean, personally, she knows I nerd out on this. I love getting into the nuances and the weeds
Well,
of all of
it's
it.
important because there are so many influencers out there that are like, here's what I eat in a day, and eat what I eat in a day. And I love that you don't say that, because it's not always appropriate. Giving people general guidance, general guidelines, I think is really helpful. And again, at the end of the day, it's the same goal of removing processed food from the diet, I think, is really important. I want to talk though about Bryce's body composition, because, social media invites trolls and all sorts of people. And so when that comment came out that, people said he's using hormone replacement therapy in order to get his body into the composition or way that it is, what say you?
Oh, it made me so happy because I have had so many people, Jason Whitrock, Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Ted Damon, so many different gentlemen on the channel who like have been accused in the comments of like doing steroids and stuff. And then Bryce never got it. And I was like, dang it, his body must not be like that fit for people to like make that kind of accusation. And so when it finally happened, I was like, yes, honey, your body, it looks like it could be out of this world or something. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously, when I said that and I made that like little reel about how like somebody had left that comment, so many people were like, really? They think Bryce is on TRT? Like this dude he's a shrimp. But yeah, I mean, it just made me happy, I guess. But it's a good point to emphasize that you can have a great physique and be able to lift heavy without being on steroids. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah, I mean,
like there must be a secret.
Proper nutrition plus proper lifting, resistance training equals a great physique. And you know what I think it is? I think it points to the fact that a lot of people on social media don't think it's possible. They must be doing something else. They must be taking Ozempic shots. They must be using replacement therapies. Like they must be doing something else because I can't achieve those results. So that's why it's easy for them to do.
Maybe you just need to be as disciplined as Bryce and
Mike.
you wouldn't have these issues. Like, yeah, I mean, it really is pretty simplistic. And I'll just say this, we've always talked about when people would see pictures, right? Like you need to understand though, that when you're seeing a picture of somebody or a video, on YouTube or on, Instagram, you're seeing an illusion.
Yep.
Like what people don't recognize is that bodybuilding in and of itself, it's an illusion. Like the leaner you get, the more muscular you look.
Yeah.
The leaner and more ripped you are, the more likely it's going to look as though you were utilizing, steroids or any type of hormone replacements. So, I invite that. I mean, me too. I like, please accuse me. I'm not getting enough of them these days. So that means that I guess I got to, work on my fat loss again. Yeah. Get back into the bodybuilding game and get shredded.
Yeah, there's a picture of me that like, I don't know how I even did this picture, but there's a picture of me where I look like, I have like really great abs. And I like immediately ran to Bryce. I'm like, look at this picture. He's like, did you? And I was like, I just took it. Like, but he was like, how did you take that picture? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm using it. And people, I probably associate me with like all the time just being like shredded. And it's like, no, right now, if you would see like some, I'm sitting down, but like people think like you're always just looking so ripped. And it's like specifically for a photo shoot time, like especially bodybuilders, bikini models, they are intentionally knowing I'm going to get a picture. So I'm going to cut my carbs, cut my fat, and be lean for that moment in time. And that's not healthy long term, but it definitely makes you have a good picture. But long term, like I think often people, I've had clients come to me and they're like, oh, I want to weigh X number. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense for you to weigh that at your height. Like that's too lean, that's too small. And but Victoria's Secret models, or different images that we see of people, it's like that's what I need to look like to be healthy. But that's not health, first of all. I know even Bryce, as a gentleman, has said many times like he would like to weigh X number of like big size to be like really big, but it's, well, one, like a part-time job having to eat all these different meals, but also he wears a sleep ring and he notices that when he eats just tons and tons of calories and has more size on him, while he may not have more fat, your heart is going to have to work harder. And that's what a sleep ring reflects, is that when he eats more and when he puts on more size, that all of your organs have to work harder when you have more mass to pump all of your blood through your different parts of your body. And so your body is going to actually work harder when you have more mass. And so it might not be a good long-term like longevity strategy. So he's had to shift his focus on like, I want to be the big guy to I want to be the healthy guy.
Just think too, though, that therein lies the challenge for all of us, because I think that we all have an aesthetic ideal that we would like to not just attain, but then maintain. But then there is the health component of it and the lifestyle component of it, where that may not be the place that you actually want to be if your focus is on having energy and long-term health and not having disrupted sleep and all of that. So, I mean, have you noticed that a lot in a lot of the people that you've worked with, and having to really, I'm going to just use the word, convince them that their aesthetic goal is not really the goal?
Yes, absolutely. Every time I'll ask them, I can see like through people's verbiage. I'm like, so tell me why you want to lose the weight. And they're like, well, my wedding's coming up, so I want to have good pictures. And I say, okay, so what happens if you don't lose weight? Are you going to get your pictures and start crying and be like, I'm so ugly? Are you going to hate your wedding? Are you going to look back and say, I hated that day? And so there's always something we want to change about ourselves. Once you lose the weight, you're going to want to change your nose. You're going to want to change your hair. You're going to want to change whatever the new thing is. And so having a goal of like wanting to look good is, okay, I want to look good too, but it's not a good long-term goal, because inevitably we're all going to get older, have gray hairs, get wrinkles, things like that. So then what? We're just going to forget about it. I'm not going to try to be healthy anymore because I don't look as good. So yeah, really having to hone in on people like, I want to feel good. And the more we can emphasize like feeling good, you're inevitably going to end up looking good, because you're doing the things out of like love for yourself, and your energy is going to reflect that. And then your body composition is going to follow as well.
I love that message. I think that the message that you coach clients into for their physical and mental state is the same message that you put out literally in the world of just, we have to learn how to love this person here and to treat this person with love. And then we have more love to give, because even like happiness is fleeting. It's nice to be happy, but to have joy, like you are full of joy. And to have joy deep within us, like that's something that continues to emanate and is not temporary. It's a state of who we are. And I see that in the way you coach, and I see that in the way you show up.
Awesome. Thanks. That makes me so happy. I had a client the other day, they said, hey, I told my husband I'm talking to the long-haired bubbly girl. And I'm like, that's what I get to be known for? My gosh, put it on my tombstone, please. That'd be awesome.
It could be worse, right? I mean, listen, I think that, yeah, what we resonate with is bubbliness, but it's because, again, it's,
well, it's backed by facts and science and experience. It's not just, I'm going to show up and be happy. It's you have an amazing, legit story. And then you are incredibly brilliant when it comes to helping people to achieve their goals, but doing it in a safe, constructive, and long-term way. And to put all of those pieces together, it's rare.
I mean, it's always about taking this information, right? Because we all get inundated with information, but like, how does it practically apply?
Yeah.
And that's why too, I love having these conversations like with other coaches, because at the end of the day, I mean, our audience knows we love talking to all the doctors, all the researchers, all the scientists. I love getting into that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's how are you applying it? And then it becomes the N=1 question of, does it apply to that individual? And so, being in the trenches, so to speak, we get to do that. We get to take all the great scientific information and then not only learn how to practically apply, but then also be the person on the other side that is the support system for those people so that they can continue to do these things, because that becomes the biggest challenge. It's not knowledge of what to do. It's number one, are you doing it? Number two, are you going to be able to sustain this long term? And, you know, that's why we absolutely honor the work that you're doing, because I think you're doing it in such an awesome way and it's super entertaining. And we hope that if nothing else, people are like so entertained that they want to keep doing it themselves.
Exactly. They're driven to change by your inspiring presentation. Well, tell our listeners where they can find you. We will, of course, link to your bio, your Instagram and YouTube page in our show notes, but lay it up.
Well, thank you guys for having me again. People can follow me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Lillie Kane.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today. And can't wait to have people dive into some of your recipes too.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lillie.